Staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? The purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm Lori LeBay, the host and founder of Alzheimer's Speaks. Before we get started today, I always like to give people a little background about who the heck we are and why we do what we do, because we're always getting new listeners. So I'll just get that out of the way here quick. Bottom line, Alzheimer's Speaks is an advocacy-based company that provides multiple platforms to help shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort around the world. And the reason I started this company was my mom lived with the disease for 30 years. And needless to say, so did our family. And it wasn't always easy. You see, here at Alzheimer's Speaks, we believe that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we're going to be able to remove the stigmas, raise awareness, and come together as a community. And hopefully, in the long run, find a cure. Though we know at our core, collaboration is really the only way we're going to win that battle. And again, that's one of the reasons we need to have conversations. And I want to just thank our audience so much for all of your kindness and your likes and your shares and your clicks, from your Facebook friends to your LinkedIn colleagues to your Twitter tribes to your Pinterest peeps. Every like, click, and share that you've done has actually helped us get named the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's, according to ShareCare and Dr. Oz. It also helped get us recognized by Maria Shriver as an architect of change. And again, I can't thank you enough, but I want you to know how important those few seconds of clicking your computer can be, because you're pushing information out to others in need. And so many times there are people in our own spheres that we don't even know are dealing with this disease. And, if they're like me, and I think a lot of them probably are, you don't reach out and grab stuff if you don't feel comfortable. And typically, the more we see something, the more comfortable we get with it. So, again, thank you for being part of the cause and raising awareness and helping remove stigma. I want to give a shout out to a few organizations before we get started here with our interview today. The first one is the Call Alert Center. If you're not aware of them, you're going to want to check them out. And again, you can go to alzheimersspeaks.com, and right on the front page on the right-hand side, you'll see a banner for them. But they are a great company that can really help those who are living with dementia and caring for them. They are a company who puts together basically a digital flyer on somebody in case they would wander, and they can get that up and running and out to so many within just a few minutes of being notified. And that can really help bring somebody else home, somebody that you love. I also want to just let you know about a cruise that we're doing. We're going to be doing a Caribbean cruise November 11th through the 18th. So if you're in that vacation planning mode, we would love to have you join us. The cruise is for people with dementia and their care partners. Again, we'd love to have families go. I know my family did a cruise with my mom who had dementia, my dad with brain cancer, and myself and my family and my two brothers and their families went. And it was just a phenomenal time that we had, and one that we still talk about today. So along with education and support and connecting with people, there'll be lots of time to relax and rejuvenate and explore. And so go to alzheimersspeaks.com. On the front page, you'll get information there, a little flyer you can even print out and share if you want. Or you can go to our initiatives and tab, and there you'll get more information. You can look at costs and cabins and ports and all of that. This March, and in fact, the end of March, the 31st, I'm going to be down in Arkansas at Alzheimer's Arkansas for their Hope for the Future conference. And if you're in that area, please stop in and see me. I would love love to be able to talk with you. It should be a fun time. And then I also want to just remind people there's still time to get involved with RAD, which is World Rocks Against Dementia. And to do that, it's basically just having some kind of musical event. It can be large or small. It might just be sitting in your own house with some friends, going to have listen to some old tunes. You can just register to do that. It doesn't cost any money. Go to the purpleangel-global.com, purpleangel-global.com, or if you're on Facebook, you can just ping Norms McNamara or Jane Moore on that. Right now, it's people in 12 different countries are involved, and so far there's 74 events going on around the world, so that's pretty cool. Well, let me go ahead and introduce our co-host today. We are going to have Bob Savage with me, and Bob is part of our Dementia Chats videos that we do, where I interview people that are living with dementia, and they truly are the experts. So I welcome you today, Bob. Do you want to share with people just a little bit about when you got diagnosed? And
yeah, I've got my final. I had 3 diagnoses before I accepted, because I have this weakness of denial. And what happened was I got first about 2 years ago now, and I get tested every 3 months by a expert care group, and there's been no change. And so I've been able, during this time, I've been able to do a lot of exciting things. I'm doing things that I never did before. I'm doing a lot of abstract painting, I'm writing poetry, and I'm very good public speaking, advocacy, and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much what I am.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us today, Bob. Now, our guest today is Lynda Weston. And at the age of 50, she went back to the university to study spirituality and religion. And the combination of that and her passion in long-term care, where she worked for over 12 and a half years, she ended up integrating her arts background and her experience with people with dementia and caregivers, both family and professionals. And that led her to create a project called Back in 5, which is an innovative method based in a belief that caring and connecting actually are the cure. So I can't wait to talk with Lynda more on this concept. Welcome, Lynda.
Thank you so much for allowing me to bring my tiny offering to your table.
Well, I think it's a powerful offering, and we're very excited to discuss that. Now, before we get started, I always ask people if they have been touched by dementia in their own family circle or friends.
Yes, I have. My mom had it for a number of years, and I was not that involved in her care because my father didn't let any of us know. And I didn't live in the same city. And and she had, my poor mom had a number of health issues over the years. She had Crohn's disease. She was an alcoholic. So the fact that Mom was kind of off again wasn't new to us. And so it took a long time, and it was only when my father actually had to go in, which happens quite often, that when my father had to go in for bypass surgery, that finally the whole family got in, realized what was going on. And at that point she went into care. Okay. But he struggled on, I guess, nobly for a very long time.
Okay. Okay. Now, why don't you tell us how your arts background helped or kind of hindered you in terms of working with people with dementia?
Well, I started off originally studying theater,
okay,
which I started when I was like 16, and my goal at that point was theater. So when you're training as an actor, you learn a lot of things. For one thing, you learn to walk in other people's shoes, to see things from a different perspective. You learn improvisation, is part of training. And you also learn, because if you are in a play with people, you have to be in that play, in that moment. And so you are aware. You're aware of what's going on, where everybody else is, what's supposed to be happening. And you also learn other things. You learn how to project your voice, out. But not only that, you have to learn how to project your energy out into the audience, and the emotions that you're expressing out into the audience. And plus, which there were all the visuals, the designs, the costumes, the sets, all of that kind of thing. And strangely enough, after I graduated with my master's degree in divinity and went to work at the long-term care facility, I actually found myself using probably more of my acting knowledge than of actually my spiritual knowledge.
Okay.
Which was kind of a surprise for me. And so, yes, and so it just gave me, long before I knew I was even going to be going back to university, let alone working in long-term care, it gave me a whole set of skills that actually proved to be quite useful.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation because Bob is very artsy as well. And so I think there's going to be a lot of good conversation here to come. Can you tell us, what exactly is Back in 5 and, what went into creating it, and how did you come up with the concept?
Well, first of all, I want to mention 3 books that were really influential to me that I read. I read them just in the line of wanting to know more, trying to do my job better. One was Thomas Kitwood's Reconsidering Dementia. Another one was Atul Gawande's Being Mortal. And the third one was Ian McGilchrist's book called The Master and His Emissary, which is about left brain, right brain, and how in the West they have become unbalanced. And so anyway, I was always, let me start this. I came across the portraits, the self-portraits, done by William Uttermolan. And I don't know whether you've seen them. He was he was actually American artist who then moved to England after the war and spent most of his life there. And he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And with the support, apparently, of a fabulous nurse, and he had expressed his desire to go on painting self-portraits, which he had done over his lifetime. And so with the support of this nurse and his wife, he continued to do those portraits as the process continued. And if you haven't seen them, they're remarkable, because it's the first time, certainly, I've seen that sort of visual from the inside out.
Okay.
And I had run across those portraits and really, really wanted to, we had mandatory training for staff every year. And I really wanted to present them to the staff. But I also knew they were going to be really hard to look at. And I wanted them to continue to look at them. Yeah. So we had a volunteer who was a musician and a composer, and I went to him and I said, "Can you write a score for these?" Wow. Because I was pretty sure that the music would hold their attention while they looked at the pictures. So, in fact, that's what we did. We put together a little. I got permission from the art dealer. His wife, actually, at that point was really sick, but from their art dealer in London gave me permission to use them for training purposes. So I have that video. I put that video together, and it was extremely effective. So that was the first step.
Could I interrupt? Could you give me his name again?
Yes, it's William.
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 Yeah.
William.
I-A-M. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Uttermolen.
And what's the last name?
It's Uttermolen. So it's U-T-U-T.
U-T-U-T.
E-R.
E-R.
M-O-H.
Uh-huh.
L-E-L-E-N.
My God. William, Uttermohlon.
Uttermolen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. So I just go online and it's hisname.com?
No, well, if you just put his name in, they have them. Yeah, the pictures will come up. There's several places where you can find those.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So that was the first step. The second step was that the home I worked in was the county home.
Mm-hmm.
It had originally started off as a house of refuge in the Victorian period. I live in a small town, about 37,000 people, and so it was a sort of Victorian poorhouse, was what it was.
Okay.
And so it had evolved into long-term care, supported by the city I live in and the county.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, some of the people who came to us were wards of the province, and in a couple of instances, we knew absolutely nothing about them, and no one knew anything about them. Some of them had come from bigger cities outside of Stratford, and that, I mean, you can imagine you're at a kind of severe disadvantage, and it was very hard to. We knew, I mean, I had been instrumental in getting music therapists into the facility. We were certainly well aware of the power of music, but when you have someone that you know nothing about, music is tricky because. Yes, it brings back memories, but if you have no idea what those memories are, it can be extremely distressing for people. And so I basically tried to use new music to see what would happen there if we played. And again, I got Michelle Allard, who was working with me on the music part. We would, I said, play new music. Play some new music with them. And plus which they were the ones, because they would have no family visiting, that I would go into the units and they were the ones who were parked in front of the television set. And that really distressed me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we were also having trouble with some people who had, especially Parkinson's, and some with drug reactions, hallucinations, and paranoia and that sort of thing arising from watching television. It was far worse when they were watching television. So I thought, all right, there has to be a substitute for television that will be stimulating. We'll use new music, and we'll also create a new emotional landscape for them.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't change in a dramatic way the physical landscape they were in, but especially, we're in Canada, in Ontario, with very long winters, as are you, and people couldn't get outside, and so that was when I started forming the idea of just these short videos to be used in the facility instead of television being put on.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have been taking a lot of photographs. I've always taken photographs, and So I had an accumulation of photographs, and so I started to play with putting that together and trying to use it in terms of altering emotional states in the facility as well, so that it would, like when someone is really distressed, angry, whatever, I mean, one of the things that is most powerful is to affirm them in that. And like with a crying baby, you meet them at the same pitch. Mm-hmm. And then you bring the pitch of your voice down, and it de-escalates. So, like, there's one of the videos starts off with a thunderstorm, and then the sun breaks out, and a robin starts to sing, and then it moves into a walk in the park. And so we tried these at the facility. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. I had initially put it on a DVD and got, and I spoke at a activity professionals convention, and they all thought it was a fabulous idea, and there was no way within the facility that the DVD was going to work because they get lost. The clicker disappears. The DVD doesn't play in that DVD player. Mm-hmm. There was just all kinds of things. So I knew at that point that eventually the whole thing had to go online in order for it to be accessible to people and to be accessible in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so I did that. Just actually, I started doing it just before I retired. I retired at the end of July. And then in September, I put it all, everything I had, and I've since added to it up online. And what happened was that friends of mine started watching them saying, these are fabulous. They're so relaxing. I feel so much better after watching them. And also I realized once that they were online that they would be, I had initially kind of thought of it in an institutional kind of way. Mm-hmm. But then I started thinking more broadly when it was that available. And I had, of course, over the years dealt with many, many completely stressed out and frail partners of people. And that, and even with our own staff, when they put on, there's one long one that's like half an hour long, and they would put it on. And you would walk into the unit, and the staff had calmed down. Everybody had calmed down. And so then I started thinking of it as being accessible to home caregivers. I mean, either to be used in terms of if I mean, because time is so often at a premium with a home caregiver, and that if these videos could be put on, excuse me, if they could be put on instead of television, it might give the caregiver time, to make the doctor's appointment or make a cup of tea or whatever, Mm-hmm. And so in the end, I think it has a lot of uses. And so it's up there now. And I'm just trying to sort of spread the word about it. Mm-hmm. And I have put into it all of those things I've learned. Someone once, quite dismissively, at a conference, held up the DVD and said, "So, slideshow with music?" And it was like, well, no. No, not really. The videos themselves are everyday things. There's one of my cats sleeping in the window on a beautiful sunny summer day that is incredibly peaceful, And there's a walk. There's various walks. There's one walk by the beach. There's one through the woods. And people seem to really like those because it is that, when you can't get out, it's really nice to be able to take that break mm-hmm. and go somewhere else. The music is all new music because one of the things I learned, and one of the things I think we forget a lot, is that although memories are going, new memories can be made. And I mean, I saw it with the girls who are doing music therapy were doing it in the chapel, which was right beside my office. And after like 3 sessions, they always do like a welcoming song.
Mm-hmm.
And after 3 sessions, 50% of those people knew the words. Like they remembered that.
Huh.
And so,
Amazing.
so my thinking, and I also, there was a woman I was at a fascinating conference that the University of Toronto gave a number of years ago, which was, it was a joint conference between the neurobiology department and the music department. And they talked about, basically what they were looking at were the sort of, the treatments they're using now for Parkinson's particularly, but those deep invasive brain surgeries is about basically what they're starting to see, which is, of course, a very old, ancient, Indian, Eastern spiritual understanding, is that systems out of harmony, and that it's about harmony and frequency, and that when something's not working, it's because it's out of frequency with the system. And so this is why they brought the music department and the neurobiology department together, to try and see if there's somehow, and of course music is all about frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were talking to each other to, see what common ground they could find. And there I met a woman actually from Salzburg in Austria, and she was working with new music, as and she was sort of packaging it as a prescription. Her plan was to package it as a prescription,
Mm-hmm.
so that doctors would prescribe it instead of drugs. And she was the one who said to me, there is some evidence that you can build new neural networks with new music. So if you have someone sitting in a safe environment with someone they're comfortable with, if it's a good experience, because we know it's the good experiences that make those songs stick in our head, then there is the possibility of at least with new music, you're not triggering something you don't know what you're triggering, and you have the possibility for a new bond, and and that's what I think, that kind of connection. What I saw for sure was that the more attention, well, as your great playwright said, attention must be paid, and as individuals, we need attention. And in institutional settings, you don't always get that, and I hate that. But I tried to provide, like I said, it's like an aspirin in the spectrum of everything that's going on, but just an alternative method of connecting, communicating, and for me that was enough of a cure. Because I think that's this disease this condition is calling us to our humanity.
Well,
that's what I believe.
And I like that you believe that caring and connecting could be our cure. We've fallen so far away from being relationship based and really understanding the other people that surround us, and really bringing it back to the heart. Bob, what are you thinking of? What are you making of all of this?
What I find so interesting is that I'm sort of preparing myself for the future when I may lose my cognitive ability. And I'm listening to some classical music, existing music, classical music, some of my favorite songs. And I've got a whole list now of things on YouTube that I've identified. what I'm finding, even though it's existing music, I'm finding new things in those music that I never had before. And I'm also finding it's like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Last night I found a new pianist. It's been around a long time, and he changed that whole symphony for me and how he played the piano. And so I have Barbra Streisand, I have jazz, I have all those things. And I practically every night before I go to sleep, I listen to about an hour of different music that I'm familiar with, that I love. And to me, what I'm doing now is reinforcing those neurons that you said, so that if I do lose my cognitive ability, and I have this identified as where people can find that music on YouTube, right? And I have it on tape. They can just push. What I would say before I left my mind, I would say, look, I have quite a temper, but I said, before you give me the needle, play me Chopin.
Perfect.
And so then they push the button, and I have my favorite piano player. I have everything there that I've developed over it. So music is very, very powerful.
Well, and that that actually is something I had considered. Is that if people in their homes found some of the Back in 5 videos that they really related to, that they responded well to, then that information can be immediately transferred into into an institutional or assisted living situation, and it brings something of you. You can take something of yourself that introduces you to them immediately.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So music is amazing. Because I think what you're saying is that the brain it remembers new things, or reinforces things you already know. That if you have Alzheimer's, you can't access it. However, in the brain, if it's played, it's accessible. Yeah. In some shape or form, and so I'm enjoying the music now more than I ever have.
Well, and I love the fact that you're hearing new things in it. I think that's spectacular.
Yeah. I've always liked the Fifth Symphony, but now I've listened to it 6 times this week. Yeah. And it goes on for an hour, right?
Yeah. Well, and
so I'm loving it.
Yeah. And I just forgot what I was going to say. But anyway.
That's okay. So
while you're thinking, go ahead.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Was that I think my core belief is we are not our minds. Like, we are so much more than our minds. And we are emotional bodies, and we are spiritual bodies. And just because we can't remember doesn't mean we aren't, because we have so much more going on. We have our senses.
How do you contact that? How do you get in touch with it is a challenge, right?
Well, music is the fastest way.
That's exactly right, but music is the way of getting in touch with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's,
for sure.
I think you've probably seen the film we see on Netflix. This is where I got the idea. Is there was a psychologist that was he would go into a nursing home or a long-term facility, and one particular instance, there was an African American that was really advanced.
Oh, the Henry video.
That's right. That's what got me going on this.
Yeah.
And so they put the phone in his ear, and he was back again and creating music.
Yeah.
Take it out, he was out. Well, that's what got me going on this thing.
I read an amazing study, and I can't remember where they did it. It was done somewhere in the States. They took I think they went to an unused monastery or something. It was a kind of big, open, empty space, and they basically set up a sort of bedrooms and a living room and stuff as it would have been in the sort of late 60s, early 70s, and they had nothing playing during. I think they were there for a week, and they brought in a group of men who all had various stages of various kinds of dementia into this place, and they lived there for a week, and they went right back. I mean,
Really?
People who couldn't walk were up and walking. I mean, they just went right back to that time when they were that age.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I mean, and you know, you think that's amazing. Where do we go with that?
Yeah, I know.
You know.
That's the first. Yeah, you know, there was another thing at that same Netflix thing. There was a woman who was dancing the Irish jig, and they put that phone in, and she started dancing the Irish jig, and she was going like a, you know. So then she called the guy who was doing the video to come over, and he came over. He took 2 steps, and she says, "It's obvious you don't know how to do the jig. Sit down." That's another reinforcer.
Yeah.
But it affects the body. It's not only the mind, it affects the body.
Well, we have body memory.
That's right. That's right. So that's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Now, Lynda,
I think that, sorry.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, what kind of reaction are you getting from communities and from families?
It's odd. Largely because I'm doing this all on my own, and I have no financial assistance at all. So everything I'm doing is just, I call it guerrilla marketing, to try and spread it out as far as I can. I have taken it to a couple of conferences, and the response I get from I spoke to a number of organizations who provide caregivers, and they were like ecstatic. They thought this was the best thing they'd ever heard of. The numbers on YouTube are not really reflecting that. I think part of the problem is, it's new. It's a brand new thing. And people just don't know quite how to use it. Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that I would like to see it used is also by young people, because one of the saddest things I saw was when, you know, young kids, young teenagers, would come to visit their grandparent or something and couldn't cope with the grandparent, really, and just sat on their phone or pad or whatever on their device, just, you know, staying in their own world. And I was really hopeful that somehow kids would be able to access it and then share something. You know, if their grandmother had a cat, there's 2 videos with a cat, you know, so it would give them a focus for conversation and also a retrieval of memory as well.
You know, on that, I have a granddaughter that I tape my conversations with. And so what I told her, you know, I said, look, I said, when you come to see Pop-Up and he doesn't recognize you, play that tape and I'll know you're with me. And so it's I'm doing a lot of tape recording with friends and that sort of thing, so that I will be able to communicate with, or they'll communicate with me. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I saw, Bob, for absolute certain, is that we have an emotional memory, and even if the name's not there, people know. Like they know this is a loving person. You know, they know this is a lover.
The warmth is there.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I've seen that right up until the end on more times than I can tell you. Yeah. You know that you will never lose that.
Okay. There's a lot of work to be done in this, so to get that communication.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
To be able to do that effectively. Yeah,
for sure. To get back to your question, Lori, I haven't been able to find a place that would do a study for all kinds of various, basically bureaucratic reasons that I won't go into. The facility I used to work at uses it successfully, and they're really happy with it. So that's, So I at the moment it's out there, and I'm doing my best to introduce it to as many people as I can, to say it's there, it's free, you know, and hope that it will just kind of grow.
Okay.
So it's accessible to all of us online, for example?
Absolutely, yes.
And can you give us that information? How to go online to access?
Lori, are those going to be on your site? The links?
Yep. Those will go up
Okay.
on the site, so those will be there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because you've got back in 5, and we've got a tiny URL that we'll be giving out, and then you've got a website and email. So those are all on the radio page. So that'll be
okay. Good. Thanks. That's good.
Yeah, and if someone is looking for more information about how it was developed and how we did it and what's available, because there are still DVDs, which I get ordered occasionally. It's on the website, and the Back in 5 YouTube site is just the videos. Although I put a couple of videos there that are kind of instructional, in case anybody wants to find out that way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Now, I know you said you're kind of doing the guerrilla marketing, and you had talked about larger, communities and stuff, and the community that you were at. They were using it. Have you gotten much response online at all from people at home, or?
No, and that's what's surprising me. I have to say, I'm not, and I don't quite know why, but I just recently went on Twitter, and I've been getting more response there than on the YouTube site, and it's love it, it's beautiful. There was one caregiver organization said, this will be so good for us when we come off shift. That kind of response is coming in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so.
Sometimes...
It's an odd thing. I think because it's just new, and there really isn't, as far as I know, anything like it. I would love to see. I'll tell you some of the things I envisioned. Was that, and again, I was thinking facility-wise, is that there is a like I say, a longer DVD and a longer piece, which is on Back in 5, called Reflections in Time, and it actually contains a sunset, so that, and I know at our facility that they were using it at that sundowning period. They would usually put it on around 5 o'clock, and they can also be used for musical cueing, and what they do is that they put it on when it's bedtime. When they're getting close to bedtime, they will put it on then. So it's kind of like, this is now you go to bed. There's another one. There's a couple of morning ones. That one's called Joy in the Morning, and I can't remember what the other one's called. And they are. And they're much livelier, and they've got the other thing that's involved in them is color. They are predominantly like the early morning ones are like predominantly yellow. There's one called Dreams of Blue, which is a sadder one, more sort of melancholy, and the predominant colors are blue. So there are like these morning videos that again would signal, morning, time to get up.
Okay. So there's lots of different ways to be able to utilize this. Can you just describe each of the videos and that you have made up to this point?
I can. Just let me get a list of them here. The latest one that's gone up is called Waiting for a Sign. And it's about being in a period where you've never been before, and you're uncomfortable, and you don't know what's happening. And it starts with a sound of actually ice breaking up. It's a kind of an unusual sound, and then it's also set in a woodland setting, and there is then a patch of green comes along, and then there's the little brook has. The ice is broken up from the brook, and it ends with running water. There's one called Nap in the Winter, which is my cat just sleeping in the winter sunlight. And there's some music and, again, some sound with that. There's like a ticking clock, which is quite calming. And there's one called Taking the Long Way Home, which is it's longer. It's almost 20 minutes. It's a walk along the same path over 4 seasons. So
Wow.
you can see the changes that happen over the seasons. So it gives that sense of, nature and how change is constant, and and how sometimes there's a couple of things in it that are quite funny. There are some things that are sad. There's some fallen trees. There's a pink like kitten hat in a tree, and so that's Taking the Long Way Home. Shadow and Light is just a kind of meditation piece based on shadow and light, the shadows and light. And there's another one, Babbling Brook, which is quite short, which is just in fact a babbling brook. There's one called While You're Asleep, which is one of the most popular ones, which is just a series of pictures of the moon at night as it goes from new to full. And it has some lovely guitar music with it.
Are you creating all these things yourself?
I am, yeah.
You're amazing. You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
Wow.
Thank you, Bob. I can't tell you how that warms my heart.
God, and what you're getting as much out of it as anyone ever will.
Well, I am. Yeah, I am.
God,
the other thing I should
creating it
mention.
is
Sorry?
No, go ahead.
The other thing I should mention is that I've also been working with there are a couple of others that are walks in the woods and stuff. There's one called We're All So Fragile and Connected, which is just a cobweb in the breeze, but it's quite beautiful. There's a lot of problem, Bob, finding stuff for men, getting men interested in things, and I'm talking in a facility setting. Actually, a couple of guys turned up here in the fall to trim one of the big trees on my property, and I said, "Could I film that?" and so anyway, it's these 3 guys. Well, they said yes, and if you look at it, a friend of mine watched it, and she said that's like watching a symphony, because they work so beautifully together. Like it's 2 older guys and 2 young kids who are working with them, 2 young apprentice boys. And the interaction between them is it was really warmed my heart. I can't tell you how lovely it was. And it was a beautiful sunny day. It's 31 minutes long, and it's called Working in Trees. It has no music.
Where'd you come up with that?
It had, well, I wanted to call it Men in Trees, but I think there was a TV show called that, and I was probably going to get into trouble.
Men in Trees is kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't for these guys. I'll tell you, it was like poetry.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they are pretty fascinating to watch when they get up there. So I can see where that would keep somebody's attention.
Yeah, and there's no music in that one. Like, it's just the sound of the guy sounds. The chainsaw and the bantering back and forth and the sounds of the day. Like I say, it was a beautiful day. There was a lot of birds, making noise and stuff, and it's quite lovely. It's actually one of my favorite. Now, I have also connected with one of the young music therapists that was in the facility, working in the facility where I was, and I would love to do more of these, and we can't quite figure out a way to do this, and I quite frankly feel guilty asking her, because she's a young woman starting on her career, and I can't pay her anything. But we did 2 videos. One of them is called Connecting Through. The series is called Connecting Through Music, and we did one on dance, and we were able to get permission from a couple at the facility that Kirsten had been working with, and she had filmed them for some of the work she was doing at university, and they, on the understanding that it would help other people, they have allowed us to use some of the pictures of them dancing together, and it's very moving. But what I would like to do is, and Kirsten would like to do too, is to be able to do more things that more sort of music therapy kinds of things, although not so much on the therapy part, but that people can do at home as an aid to communication.
Okay.
So I'm hoping in the future we can do some more of those.
So what are you doing in your spare time?
Not much.
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I take pictures.
Oh, wow.
Well, you definitely are
wow.
busy and are not letting anything grow under your feet. That's for sure. And your contribution is huge. So we will do everything we can to help you push out, your work. Now, I just want to clarify. On YouTube, are those full length or are those just portion of the different videos? Are those just highlights?
No, they're the whole thing.
They are, okay. Because I know,
and they vary. That's the other thing, is that they vary in length because attention spans vary in length.
Okay.
And sometimes you just need to grab attention with one thing. So, like, some of them are only 2 minutes, some of them are 19, and they go up to 35.
Okay.
They also run 11, 12 minutes as well. There's all kinds of variety of time.
Okay, gotcha. Because I know on the website they were for sale, and then I wasn't sure if you had both or, if they were
No,
different.
yeah. The website is just the DVDs.
Okay.
And they aren't all on the DVD. That was a much earlier venture.
Okay.
So there is a selection. There are 2 DVDs. One is the Reflections in Time, which is the longer one. And then the other one is a bunch of the little ones.
Okay.
So if I go on YouTube and put Back in 5, is that where you would find those YouTubes?
Yes.
And
you have to, on YouTube, you have to put Back in 5 and use the number 5. Not written out.
Plus.
Yeah, so it's back in
the number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, not the word.
No, not the word.
Because if you put in the word, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes up.
I know.
So, yeah. Who'd have thunk?
I know.
Who'd have thunk?
Mainly jazz singers. I don't know.
I didn't do that.
Well, good. Well, this has been an interesting show. Do you have? I know you had shared, basically that this is pretty much total volunteer endeavor for you, and I guess I'd just like to hear in your words what do you get out of this?
I'll tell you what I get out of it. There's a theologian called Frederick Buechler. I don't know whether you've heard of him. And he said, I know I always get this, I'm going to paraphrase what he said. What he said is, where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need, that's where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And my working in this media,
mm-hmm.
Is where my greatest love is. And for those people I took care of, and in honor of my mom, and I can see a need, so that's where I am. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
Well put. Well,
thank you. I think when you always give, you get back more, and it's evident that you are definitely receiving through your giving as well. And it sounds like you've really found your purpose, and
mm-hmm.
Which is really giving back to the greater good. So that is absolutely fabulous. So again, you can go to YouTube and find these videos. Just go to YouTube and put in Back in 5, and that's the number 5, Back in 5, with the number 5, and they'll pop up. Or you can always email her as well at WISP, so WISP, WISP at Reitman.com, and that's right with a, I'm sorry. Is that how you pronounce it, Reitman?
Whiteman. There's no R.
Okay.
Yeah, Whiteman.
Okay. WIGHTMAN. WIGTH. I'm sorry, HT. My eyes are goofy right now.
Oh dear.
You know what? It's on the radio show. That's probably the safest place to look on all of them. We'll just cut to the chase and do it that way.
Are you having a problem?
Yes, all day I've had a major migraine, and it's getting to me.
Oh wow.
It's getting to me, but you plug on through.
You need spring. We all need spring.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, Lynda, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I thank you for taking time with us today. And Bob, thank you so much for joining us as well. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it because it gives me fuel for thought.
Wonderful.
Well, it relates a lot to what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, I wish everybody a fantastic week ahead. I do want to just mention that, here at Alzheimer's Speaks, we're on the Alive and Social Network. And one of our sidekicks here is Rachel Perrin, who has a podcast called What's for Dinner Tonight. And she can kind of help fix you up if you're hungry and don't have a whole lot of time. Her podcasts are only 10 to 15 minutes long, and they talk about seasonal flavors and favorite foods and trending topics regarding nutrition. So it's kind of a cool place to go. You can also go to Kowalskis.com to get complete menu ideas, and that's KOWALSKIS.com, Kowalskis.com. Again, I want to give a plug for our cruise to the Caribbean, November 11th through the 18th. We would love to have you join us. Harry Urban, Michael Ellenbogen, Lori Scherer, and Mary Howard, all living with dementia, are going to be part of our panel experts on the cruise, along with Cindy Lewinsky, who is heading up a dementia-friendly effort in Colorado. So you can just, again, go to alzheimerspeaks.com to find more about that cruise. We would love to see not only people with dementia, but their care partners and their families as well. I think this will be a great time to get educated, get connected, and get a lot of resources while having some fun and getting rejuvenated and just hanging out. Our last show on Alzheimer's Speaks, we talked about RAD, which is World Rocks Against Dementia. And that is something that's happened the last 2 years. It's expanded its base, and I'm sure in 2018 it'll even be larger. But that is where people gather to listen to music, small and large. And right now it's in 12 different countries, and it's just kind of going crazy. So check out our past shows. We've got about 6 years of shows you can listen to. So that'll keep you busy for quite some time. I also want to give a shout out to all of our memory cafes around the world. They're just such a fantastic place for people to connect and really enjoy themselves. If you are going to be in Washington in June, I'll be out there June 12th through the 15th for the Leading Age Conference. Give me a holler. I'd love to connect with you while I'm out there. This month, at the end of the month, on the 31st, I'm going to be in Arkansas, and I will be at Alzheimer's Arkansas is having their conference, Hope for the Future, in Little Rock, and I will be there. So again, come up and see me if you are around. In the meantime, have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again next week. Stay safe, everybody. Bye now.
Hi, this is Suzanne Newman, host of the Answers for Elders podcast and radio show. We are the North Star that guides you through the complicated journey of senior care with trusted experts in money, law, living solutions, and more. So join us on this station, your favorite podcast channel, or just go to AnswersForElders.com. Meet the Wayshowers who will help your journey go a lot easier.